Thank you, Molly. I appreciate that. Okay. Well, we're going to talk a little bit today about physicians. We all love physicians, right? Do we have any physicians in the room? No? Good. As Eddie Murphy would say, let's talk about them. So, just to kind of start out, we want to talk about ourselves just for a second. Fred?
So Randy gave me the task of introducing my boss, and that always goes well. So since he is directly responsible for my increase, Randy's been the president of McDaniels marketing since 1989. Little known facts, he is able to leap small buildings in a single bound, and he knows almost every Jim Carrey line ever recorded. Please test him on this later.
And Fred? Digital marketing specialist for quite a while now. He's joined us in 2014. I can't believe it's been that long. He's worked in the internet since about 2000, and he has more G.I. Joe action figures than you do. And I know he definitely has more than I do. He's so big in the toy industry, they literally send him product to review on his blog. So if you have any questions about nerdy toys, right there. Okay? So where are these guys from? Our agency was founded in 1966, so we're 50 years old this year. We're really excited about that. Haven't done anything with it, though. We've been too busy. But we do have a logo, and we're going to be putting some stuff out. Started the healthcare marketing group in mid-'90s, about the time when things really started getting cooking on that. Interactive in 1998, so we got in early. And then we started introducing some of our other services in 2010, such as SEO and SEM and so forth. Fred.
So this is my shameless social media plug, and this is actually going to come into play later in the presentation. You guys all have smartphones with you today, and I'm willing to bet you all have Facebook installed on it. Going to ask you, you can unfollow us later if you want. Take out your smartphones right now. Go to McDaniels Marketing. We're the one with the little orange icon, and give us a like. It's going to tie into something we're going to do later. Also, we're just kind of interesting. We do some fun things with our Facebook feed, just general industry information, an occasional Star Wars video that may or may not have gone up earlier in the month. And we try to stay abreast of a lot of trends and things. So we invite discussion. So again, Facebook, go to McDaniels Marketing and give us a like. And then leave your Facebook app on, leave your phone out, because hopefully you'll get a notification a little later in the presentation.
All right, our topics for today, we're going to discuss the trends in physician marketing. So that includes traditional and digital media. And we're going to try to help you gain an understanding of how to use digital media, of course, to build that client base for the new and existing physicians.
And I'm actually going to interject. There's something we forgot to mention.
Yeah.
Before this presentation, there was a series of handouts that were passed out to everybody here with a lot of pictures on it. So that's a little quiz we're doing just to sort of liven things up. At the end of our presentation, or after lunch, if you guys want, I'm sitting in the back corner back there. Turn in your form. What we're looking for is the name of the doctor shown in each picture. If you can't give me that, give me the name of what it's from, or the actor who plays it for half credit. And the reason why we're doing that is we have, because everybody loves coffee, a Starbucks card that whoever gets the highest score is going to leave with today. So on that form also, if you can put your name and an email address and a phone number as well, we really appreciate it. So thanks, and back to you, Randy.
Okay. So what are some of the challenges in physician marketing? Well, physicians certainly are not like peaches and cream. They're always looking for the next best opportunity. I think that's our biggest challenge right now in rural and community hospitals is that they do too sign up for interview every day, look for new opportunities every day, even interview while you already took the position and maybe not show up. I mean, I've heard every story known to man about physicians and what's going on, especially in the rural level, but even in the cities. So marketing quickly to encourage them to stay engaged and stay on is really important. We've got to ramp them up fast, don't we? So, how do you deal with the turnover and still put that happy face on and when introducing new practitioners? Because we all know, we sometimes we get tired of reintroducing, primary care docs and going through this constant cycle that we have now. But we just have to accept it and we have to do it. So, and what about the effect of large physician groups? So, I know many of you have hospitals that are kind of adjunct to a larger metro area or multiple metro areas in some cases. So what about those large physician groups that aren't in your control, that are in nearby markets? So how do we get them to work with those physicians without cannibalizing their patients? I mean, that's a real challenge right now, is to try to determine physician patterns and where they're going, and to make sure that the physicians are working well, and that the hospitals and the physicians locally can keep most of that business. So, first of all, as simple as it may sound, you've got to make it easy for new patients. And you'd be amazed at how many times I run into websites that have physician bios and that's it on a page. Literally, that's it. You know where they went to school, you know their background, and then that's about it. That's all that's been done. You've got to make it easy for them. And we do have an example if you want to pull up that one link. It should pull up the internet. So it's so important to develop actionable landing pages for new physicians and really kind of build out their section online. In other words, answer some of the questions that have to do with some of the diseases or conditions they treat, not just the physician themselves.
We're having an internet connection.
Oh, are we? Okay. We can show that later if we get it to work. Internet links and web presentations never work for me. Isn't that true? So you got to ask yourself, are these pages easily found by search engines? And some of you might have heard us talk about Hummingbird, the algorithm for Google. You might have heard our talk on that before. What that has to do with is semantic search. And so what Google looks for is keywords based on the answers to people's questions. So they're not necessarily just looking for physician name, but it's helping to solve problems for patients that are looking for second opinions and solutions to their problems. So it's really important to make sure that these pages are easily found by search engines. And is there a form or an email set up to request an appointment right on the page? Not on a separate spot, but right on the page. Make it very easy for them. And are there maybe some sub-pages within that section also to help patients understand some of the services that physician or that practice offers? And is there one centralized phone number to call? Even that makes it easier for referring physicians, is make it easy for people to set an appointment. I know that sounds like so rudimentary, but I cannot believe how hard it is sometimes when, especially health systems and hospitals have all these different practices and they're not conjoined at the hip. It's not easy to make that one phone call. And I know it's not easy to set that up either, I get it. But if you can achieve that, it makes a big difference. And then also, and most importantly, what are other physicians and staff in your network thinking? What's their mindset regarding this new physician that's coming on board? Are they going to embrace their presence and encourage referrals, network with them, help them in any way possible? Are they going to resist and push back? Trying to get some of that out of the way before you start to advertise physicians makes a big difference in success. And again, not easy. None of this is. That's why we're talking about it, right? So building a new physician's patient base, it really takes more than newspaper ads and press releases. And Lisa talked about press releases before, is that we sometimes do too many press releases, but they're still necessary. So what are patients seeking? Well, potential patients really are seeking answer to their health problems. Let's face it. I mean, that's the whole idea, is that they're looking for answers. They're not looking for books, so in this case, they're not looking for Dr. Mercola, who's written a book, although the fact that physicians have been published doesn't hurt, but it's certainly not what you necessarily want to lead with. So they're seeking physicians who are listening, okay, that they ask questions and they solve problems. So this kind of relates to what I was saying about web content, is asking questions like, what is hypertension? What are the signs of colon cancer? How often should I have a breast cancer screening? Meshing some of those type of questions within a physician's web pages or microsite is really critical, rather than just the physician directory bare minimum, which we all see a lot in healthcare marketing. So you get the bare minimum. You search for the physician type, you get the physician bio, you get a phone number, you get an address, and that's all you get. It's building out that content deeper that relates to that physician, especially like gastro physicians and cardiologists. Primary care can still be done because we all know some very key things that primary care docs dealing with all the time. Diabetes being huge, right? So that's pretty easy to do a diabetes page that might link back to all your primary care docs and how they treat and manage diabetes and who's the diabetes support educator, all those type of things. Try to merge a lot of that content in. And rather than keeping hospital over here and physicians over here, right, trying to get more of that content there so the answers are already there when, especially if they're using a search engine, when they find that physician name in that landing page, they also see, okay, this physician spends a lot of time on diabetes. That's good because my mom has that problem or I have that problem. So, and again, if we can get the link to work, I'll show you a good example of that here in a minute. So I apologize for that. Okay. So again, giving them what they want, Hummingbird optimization of landing pages, Q&A format, and to be visible. So think about Google AdWords. Consider that. Now, how many people in the room are currently using Google AdWords to market physicians? About 3. I knew that was going to be low. A lot of rural hospitals, community hospitals are not really embracing Google yet. They're embracing Facebook. It's okay to embrace Google. It can work. It seems like a big monster that you don't think you can compete in that arena, but you can, and it does definitely work. Works really well when people are seeking second opinions. Second opinions are huge on Google. So say they've been referred initially to a physician, but they've got some questions. They might Google their condition, and that's where you want to show up. You want that physician name, whether it be a search ad or a display ad, you want that to show up when they're searching for those other solutions they might want to look at. So we'll be covering more about Google here in a minute. The other thing is catch the patient's attention. We need to be creative with our ads, okay? But maybe not this creative. Although I love the Dr. X ad. So when you start searching for this through Google Images and find all this old stuff, it's a lot of fun. So Fred's going to talk a little bit about media usage. This is really interesting. He's got some good data on trends with urban versus rural in media usage. Fred?
So, we know that basically the media landscape is changing. We talked about that last year. And a lot of it's been changed by this little device right here that everybody carries with them that is now, their right arm in their daily life. It's what people go to search for information on. They go to make phone calls. It's kind of become their communications hub. And so what I looked at is I wanted to find where are people finding their information. And this was from a Pew Research study that looked at small town and rural residents compared to large city suburbs. And I have this broken out a little easier. This is just kind of up to give you a broad example. But what's interesting about it is, again, small town and rural residents are still likely to stick with traditional media, but they're not exclusive to it. And I broke it down here a little bit. So the blue on each of these charts for small city and for rural represents traditional only. So there's your newspaper, your radio, your local TV, your phone books. What the red is your traditional and online. So people that are using those, but they're also using the internet as a source now. The internet is now part of their daily routine. And then you get into the green. Now this is traditional, online, and mobile. And if you notice, if you add up everything that traditional is still a part of, it's still huge. But traditional by itself is not the largest slice. And so when you're trying to reach people in rural and small town areas, you want to be visible. You want to be where the consumers are. But at the same time, you want to avoid that trap of, well, everybody's going digital these days, so I'm going to cut all my traditional. Or I'm in a small town. We're a small town. We're not really using online and that, and sort of cut that out. You want to find a balanced approach to all of this. And again, the reason I like Pew Research is not really tied to a media company. They are independent. So this was actually a pretty interesting stat. The other color brackets represent online and mobile only. Look how tiny that little purple slice is in each. And then the last one is people who have no source of local information. That's a little larger than I thought it would be. So the next slide here, and this is social media adoption by the U.S. population. So, and it's unfortunate that the rural line is kind of harder to see, but I'll highlight this. So you've got it broken down into urban, suburban, and rural. And if you notice, yeah, there was a bit of a gap here, but rural social media adoption has kept pace with the rest of it. It's part of our culture. It hasn't really, lagged way behind. In fact, in this last slide, where urban flatlined, rural is almost catching up to it. You're looking at almost a 60% penetration in rural markets of people who are deeming themselves active social media users. To throw another little data point on there, because I can never have enough data. I was reading a ComScore study recently that said, 1 in 5 minutes spent on the internet, period, anymore, is spent on social media. So again, this is one of those channels where people are kind of like, well, how do we get into it? We're going to talk more about this later, because social media allows interaction, and that can be scary in a healthcare situation. So, and then I'm going to let Randy talk a little bit more on traditional media.
So where does traditional fit into this plan to market physicians? I mean, we all know it still fits, but what do you do with it? When you look at local newspaper and radio, and I'm talking small communities, okay? So say 7,500 people, 5,000 people, those kind of communities. We all know that the media companies are starting to really struggle. I shouldn't say starting to, they are, to try to stay afloat, because they're extremely small, and they have limited people, paying attention. However, it's still viable in some cases. Now, certainly running newspaper ads and radio spots in small communities, helps us all sleep really good at night. We all, hear the CEO say we've got to get an ad in the paper. Well, in some cases, it definitely makes sense. There's a goodwill effect to support your local media. They still put out your stories. They still publish that. So it's important to try to support them, first of all, to be a good community partner. And it creates impressions with older audiences. When I've talked about local radio, I'm talking about the local radio station in your town, not the larger group that's in the metro. And oftentimes those AM, FM combination stations are really reaching a 45-plus audience now. I mean, that's the reality. So, but you certainly can still use it to market gastro and cardio and diabetes management, sleep lab, those type of services. And try to use tracking phone numbers and website URLs whenever you can in traditional media. But just trying to be smart about using it. In other words, I guess my message today is you don't necessarily have to plug all your messages into every media. You can make, wiser choices based on what the message is going to be and who you're targeting. And I know, again, that seems simple, but I see a lot of cases where we do kind of push everything through. Now, television can still be effective if you have cable insertion available in your area. Again, I'm trying to speak to the rural and small hospital target today. And, certainly when available, local news broadcast can be the most effective time to run ads on broadcast, but there is a tremendous amount of waste. And I see a lot of rural hospitals running television still. I can give you an example. My own hometown hospital, they're not here, so I can talk about them. They run television on broadcast stations. And so in Pekin, and of course that's the Peoria market. So they're running and paying for all those additional impressions to hit the entire ADI, which includes Bloomington Normal, all the way up almost to LaSalle, Peru, all the way over to almost to Galesburg. And you think about how many people are actually going to seek care at Pekin Hospital versus our friends from OSF that are here today, or say Methodist. Very, very tough equation, right? In a few cases, maybe it's a specific specialist, but very, very tough. So again, trying to rely more on targeted mediums, especially when you're a smaller hospital, is very smart. Try to stay away from the temptation to run advertising somewhere where a larger system's running just to try to match them in some way. Is trying to be smart with our dollars. We don't have very many, so it's looking at trying to be more targeted. Outdoor advertising. Here's another dangerous one. Is you need to be cautious with this type of advertising. One of the things I always tell any client we work with is you think about the basic nature of outdoor advertising and what it's most effective at. And it's most effective at selling French fries and hotels and anything you can really exit off the interstate for. Anything very, very simple. And we, as healthcare marketers, try to use it all the time. to sell really, really complex subjects, okay, where there's a physician referral involved, there's all these different steps in the stage of the purchase, or at least the decision, and we're using a medium that really isn't very good at that. So again, be careful of what you do. Certainly be careful of Dr. Nick Rivera there, who says, if I kill you, you don't pay. So be careful of that. It still can be very effective for walk-in clinics and primary care. The more people can utilize the service, the more outdoor makes sense. And I know some of this it seems rudimentary, but the only reason why I bring it up is that I see a lot of forced messaging, meaning we've got a campaign, we're going to use all the media in our arsenal and just shove all the messages through it, rather than deciding which media makes sense for what type of change we're trying to cause. Direct mail, I'd like to talk a little bit about that and how it relates to email. And certainly direct mail, we all know, has a great branding effect, but it's very high cost. We're going to visit with you shortly about email and how what makes it different and how you can use email marketing. And I'm talking about outside of your own patient base. So in other words, like paid e-blast, that type of thing. So we're going to touch base on that here in a little bit. And other than that, I'm going to kind of turn it over to Fred here on digital media, and he's going to take you through a few slides on how digital media can mix with this traditional media and when it makes sense. Fred?
All right, so you're stuck with me for a little bit now, and apparently my fading voice. So basically, how can you leverage digital media and digital marketing to connect with patients, especially in a rural environment? Well, there's a couple of different ways you can use it. I'm a big advocate, and we talked about earlier about social media, which does present its own challenges. There's also search advertising, and there's online video, and we're going to break down each of this. But with social media, there's actually two parts of it. There's content, which is the viral, the content that you're putting out. Maybe it's a blog, share, things like that. You don't pay anything for this. This is what you're broadcasting out to your current follower base. And then you have paid ads, and that's the pay-to-play component. That's where you're getting your message out beyond people who follow you. So one of the reasons people ask is, why social media? I mean, isn't that where people are going and they're sharing cat videos and pictures of their kids' soccer tournaments? And, oh, look how awesome my vacation was in Jamaica while you're still sitting at work. But it's more than that. I mean, if you think about that, all of that content, that's where your potential patients are. This is where they are going. My better half, it's a great example. She's not a news watcher anymore. Facebook has become her content aggregator. So for her, she follows all these different channels and shows and, businesses and that, and then she can literally on her news feed see the content that's only relevant to her. And that's what has happened with this. And as like we said, approximately 60% of rural and suburban adults are on social media anymore. So it's a great chance to be where your customers are. The other thing is that social media is all about a discussion, and that's the way media has really trended anymore. It's not the days so much of, you put the ad out, and then it's kind of fire and forget. The ad's there. People can't really, if they comment on it, that takes place, there's no involvement in it. That takes place in their home. If an ad or a post is up, people comment on it. They share it, and there's a discussion. And so this is your chance to be part of that discussion. And a good thing to do with this is to follow what we've found to be the 80-20 rule. And you're wondering, well, what is that? Well, an 80-20 rule is a way to break down your content. 80% of the content that you put out on social media should not be salesy. It's give content. It's informational content. It's the kind of stuff that people are likely to share. The kind of things that people find engaging. We even say take that 80 and break it down the middle. 50% of it can be just pure entertainment. Some of it can be a poll or an image where you talk about something and then you ask people to put their own experiences back. You're inviting conversation. And you're engaging them through questions in that respect. 30% of it becomes things like useful information. We've got one of our doctors wrote a new blog. We're going to put his blog post up. That's useful information. It could be something as simple as 5 things to make certain your child is, 5 things you can do to make certain your child is ready for school in the fall, including vaccinations, sports screenings, all of that. Again, informational, beneficial content that shows you as a thought leader in your environment. And then 20%, well, this is the ask content. This is where you're putting up something that says, we have a new practice in this city. We have extended hours for this location. We have a new doctor that we're introducing at one of our practices or locations. And these include a call to action. This is the call for an appointment today, learn more. But again, it should never be the vast majority of what you put out there. You're winning hearts and minds with the 80%. Then you're asking for the sale with the 20%. When we talk about social, we have to talk about Facebook, because every data point, every bit of, any bit of statistics you look at, this is really the Goliath of social media right now. It has the greatest penetration among all age groups. It still gets, and there was a ComScore study I looked at last week, it still is the highest for engagement across all ages. Yes, there are platforms like Snapchat and that are coming out that are skewing significantly younger, but for healthcare, you really want to look at where you can reach the broadest audience, and that's Facebook right now, the house that Zuckerberg built. So, again, we're going to talk a little bit about when you post on Facebook, these are the things that go out to your followers, the people that already follow you. You want to ask yourself a question before you post. Is anyone going to care about this? Not you, because you're a marketer. You're someone that is involved with it. You already have a connection to it. But we're talking about the people you're trying to reach. And you want to give them a reason to engage with that content. So again, provide value, the 80%. Encourage participation through questions. Also, use a strong image. Use something that is, again, that's inviting that engagement. Because if you look on your feed on Facebook, what are you most likely to look at? The little text post that streams by, or the picture of your neighbor's cat? Or beyond that, are you more likely to look at the picture of your neighbor's cat or the video that starts to autoplay when you scroll by? Because most people who use Facebook anymore aren't doing it on a laptop. They're not doing it on a desktop. They're doing it on this. And so your content needs to grab their attention in a mobile world.
Everybody understand how to do the autoplay on Facebook?
And the other thing...
MP4 upload on that.
Yeah, if you want to get your video to autoplay on Facebook, load it directly to your page. You can include a link in your description. You can include the link here. And the other thing is, feel free to use hashtags. I know that people think of that still primarily as a Twitter thing. Hashtag the little pound sign, and then, you can make up whatever you want. But hashtags have really taken off, especially part of Facebook's search. As Facebook is more, as it's really drawing more and more people's daily internet time, people are using it to search things more and more. Oh, a friend of mine mentioned that there's a new doctor somewhere. Well, how do I find that? Well, let me look up that. And, I think it was Pekin Hospital. Well, then, you know what? Let me just put it in Pekin Hospital. Any posts tagged with Pekin Hospital are going to show up in those search results. So be creative with your hashtags. The big thing to do on Facebook is avoid the one-sided conversation. How many of you have seen this movie that I'm referencing? You guys remember Lumbergh? Guy walks up, "Hey, Peter, what's happening?" And promptly ignores anything that Peter has to say. He talks to Peter, but he never talks with him. So again, you want to avoid the one-sided conversation on Facebook. And this is as simple as if someone comments on your feed, acknowledge it. And we'll talk about that later. In fact, we'll talk about it now. The number one statistic that we like to track on Facebook at our agency is not the number of followers you have. People will have, it used to be a big thing on Facebook. People would be, like our page, to be entered in the drawing for a new camcorder or a laptop or an iPad. What's that person do? They click like, and they never pay attention to you again because they're only in it for the thing that you're giving away. What you want to do with that valuable content is you want to increase your engagement rate. And that is based on the number of followers you have versus the amount of times they interact, the number of people that you interact with in a week. It is better to have 1,000 followers, but interact with 500 people in a week, than to have 5 million followers and interact with 500 in a week. Because the more people interact with you on Facebook, the more likely your content is to show up in their news feed. Because again, Facebook is all about trying to make your news feed feel like it's personalized to you or to you or to you. They want it to feel like there's no obtrusive content in here. It's all stuff that you've interacted with. So again, and how do you get that? If someone takes the time on a post that you've made to post a response, at the bare minimum, click like. It's simple, it's easy, but it shows that you have acknowledged their feedback. You know, it's the equivalent of, hey, thanks. If their comment is a little more detailed, reply to it. Thank them for their feedback. You know, thank them for it. Now, this is the question that we get a lot. Yeah, so I posted something about a new doctor, and then somebody responded and said, well, they had a bad experience, and it turns into a customer service situation. And how do you handle that? Because here it is, it's visible on that feed, everybody's watching. So if you have a negative comment, apologize for the person's experience. Ask their permission to do one of two things. Message them directly. So you're taking the conversation, you're still having a conversation, but you're taking it out of the public eye. Or the other thing would be to do is, if you don't have time to do that, in a response, give them a way to contact you. Give them a publicly available phone number or email to use. The reason I added publicly, oh, you know, I'll just give them my cell phone really quick. You've just broadcast your cell phone number out to everyone who is following that discussion. Which means anyone that has an axe to grind about anything related to that is going to see that, and they're not going to realize that's your personal number. They're going to go, that's my direct hotline to someone there, and they're going to call you at all hours. The whole point is that you are still having a conversation. You're just moving it in a way that's not as visible where if it gets contentious, and at the same time, you're still acknowledging the person's, you know, the reason that they have an axe to grind in the first place. So, again, as Patrick Stewart always said on Star Trek, engage. So this is the biggest thing that you can do on Facebook. Now, remember earlier when I asked you guys all to follow us on Facebook? Let's hope this works. This is something new that Facebook launched this past year. And I'm going to talk, instead of talking to you guys about it, I'm going to talk to you guys through your phones. So pull out your phones. And if you followed us, be prepared to check your notifications. And if not, go to our page. Oh, due to poor wireless connection, that is not a happy thing. I do not like that. Well, it worked when I tested it earlier. Somebody found me. All right, well, I'm not going to waste time with it right now, sadly. So what Facebook has done is, in the last year, they've introduced something called Facebook Live. And you're like, Facebook Live, why do I care about that? Anybody with a mobile phone logged into a Facebook page can broadcast live video. Now, it works one of two ways. When you're broadcasting, the video is actually live. When you're done, you have the option to approve it, and it gets saved to your news feed, which means you can do things with it later, like promote it. And you're wondering, well, why would I even use this? So imagine a situation where you have a doctor in a practice, and maybe there's a current health topic that's going on right now. It could be anything from the Zika scare that's going on to, again, in the fall, you have kids that are getting ready for back to school, and what healthcare questions, what should parents do? Have one of your physicians go into a place with a good Wi-Fi signal or really good 4G. Pull up their phone, or you can have someone else hold it for them. It has to work on a mobile device, and broadcast. Now, they can just start speaking, and they can talk about it and treat it like almost, just a regular, like a webinar, except for the bottom of the screen is going to become a live comments feed. Anybody who posts a comment about that particular broadcast, they'll be able to see it. So as I'm, I could be speaking here and I could be talking, and someone could be like, well, your tie's crooked. Oh, thanks, and you can call them out. Or you can actually answer someone's question right away. Well, I live in this school district, and we don't know if we require this. The doctor could respond to them right away by name. It is a chance to do a live Q&A or live event coverage and interact with your audience, the people who happen to be watching. Had this worked, I'm really bummed it didn't, anybody who follows your page gets a notification on their phone that says, it would have said today, McDaniels Marketing is live now. Do you wish to view? You click that, you jump straight to the video. You are at the moment that is currently in that presentation. So if it's already been going for a minute, you jump in a minute. But when it's done, you can go back on the page and watch the whole thing. So since it didn't work, I would invite anyone to go back to our Facebook page and check out. I've done a couple of these impromptu before. But again, these can be used to promote anything from physician blogs to seminars to live event coverage. Yes?
I have one question, or maybe it's one not sure. I have a couple of things that I follow that have done
Yes.
the live feed. I actually have my Facebook set to where I don't have videos playing immediately, like when you open.
Yes.
Because obviously, they have it set so that you, like, as soon as the video comes up and you scroll past it, it starts playing to catch your attention.
Yes.
Great idea as far as marketing goes. But it
Bad on
drains the
batteries.
battery and everything else. So I've turned that off on mine.
So then when you go to that post, you
Right.
click the arrow to play.
You have to actually play the
Yes.
Yeah.
And then but it
And
works.
then you're live, and then you go to the live stuff.
Right.
Yes,
Right.
exactly.
But that's one thing that you have to, like, you know, think about if you're going to do the live feed, if you want your viewers to say, I'm sure it's nice.
But you know, it's only one extra step. It's a lot easier than if you tried to do like a Google Hangout.
You still get the notifications that something
Yes.
is up live.
Yes.
So I can go watch the live part.
Well, just think about how many, like, say, 35, maybe 45 plus people that have no idea how to even turn that off. So,
Or my
so it's
86-year-old
okay.
mother.
Most people are just, they're just going to use Facebook the way it is. They're not going to reset anything. So people like me. So, but I do want to emphasize with that is that is real. It's really exciting what they put out. And when you think about how you can connect people instantaneously with a physician, for example, and talk about, say, screenings, different opportunities that they can convey new treatments for a disease or, dealing with an injury or whatever have you. But it's really a way to replace those old Ask the Physician TV shows we see that hardly anybody ever responds to anymore. We've tried to do those, and do a poll, and you've got like 2 people responding because they're on the syndicated channel. So it's kind of fun to look at this where you're really broadcasting it out to people that care. They've liked your page, so they actually will pay attention and comment in. So.
And we are now live
Yes,
from
now
the
it's
Isham
working.
Per Spring Conference.
Yeah.
So it does actually work. That Facebook Live can be used. And if anybody wants to ask me a question right now through Facebook, feel free. Because I'm just going to keep doing my presentation. So we want to talk about paid advertising for Facebook. And in paid advertising, the reason this works so well. Ooh, echo. Someone found me.
But am I behind then?
That's the lag in the network. So I would see it after a few moments. Yeah, I'm going to stop here. It's if you're in the same room, you can get that little bit of a lag. But think about it as far as if I were somewhere else and you posted a comment, I would just be like, oh, there it is. So again, the reason why Facebook paid advertising is so useful, think about this for a second. Think about the type of things people talk about on Facebook. It has become the single largest voluntary submitted collection of demographics civilization has ever known. Kind of scary. People are saying where they are, what they're doing, who they're with, what they're eating, what they're buying, what they're interested in. All of this is available to advertisers. Now, Facebook is never going to say, well, if I want to know people in my area who like Dr. Phil, I feel sorry for those people, but it's never going to give you a list of names. But it allows you to target individuals based on their location, their interests, their age, their demographics, their education, their job title, and you can serve ads, feed ads to them only to those individuals. You could target an ad so that I would see it, but Randy wouldn't. Maybe I'm a soccer player and you have a new sports medicine person. And Randy is more of he's not a player right now, he's more of a football fan. You could target people who play soccer. I'm more likely to use a sports medicine doctor for injuries than Randy might be at this point, even though he's way more active than I am.
Yeah.
The other thing about paid advertising on Facebook is it is incredibly cost effective. But the best part is any ad that you put out on Facebook serves as a vehicle for conversation. In an ad, people can like an ad, people can ask comments in an ad, and people can share an ad. And if they share an ad, they're hitting a whole new group of people that you hadn't initially planned on. And even better, that's the equivalent of a friend referral in some ways. It's the equivalent of someone saying, well, I heard this, because now they're taking your content and they're saying, I think this is interesting enough that I'm going to share it with my circles. I'm going to share it with my friends. I'm putting my own stamp on it. Think of how valuable that is. That is literally controlled word of mouth. And at the same time, you have a chance to converse with people. The side effect of a Facebook ad is you can actually also get free page likes out of it. That's the side bonus. The other thing you can do on Facebook is a promoted page. This is merely, again, similar targeting. This is merely a way to grow your organic audience. So say you've currently got 800 followers on your practice's Facebook page. You want to get that number up to 1,000. You want to reach more people organically with your blog posts and things like that. You can target people again, and you can run this as a promoted page. People see it on their feeds, and it says, oh, we think you would like this. You don't pay unless they click on it. You can actually do it on an impressions basis. I don't recommend it. I say really keep it to page likes. This is an example we ran for IVCH. It ran for 7 days. It reached 3,200 people. So 3,200 people were exposed to IVCH that may not have been exposed to them before, and it got them 54 new page likes. At the same time, 3,200 people are now aware of of your page. So, and then, as I talked about earlier, this is what a feed ad looks like. These are those ads that we talked about using the paid advertising. These show up in your news feed. What I recommend you use feed ads for, these are your 20, remember the 80-20 rule that I talked about like a million years ago? This is the 20%. This is where we have a new doctor, so we're going to do an introducing Dr. Smith, or in this case, Dr. Quinn, to our, to audiences. Dr. Quinn is now seeing pediatric patients in this community. So these are the ones that you can run for days, weeks, months, although I don't recommend running them for more than 3 months. And you might say, well, why? If you think about it, when you set your targeting, you're going to get a finite audience size. After a while, after about 3 months go by, the people who are going to interact with that ad have interacted with it. So you don't set an ad, forget it, and let it run for 6, 8, 10 months. This is when you would do a creative refresh. Adjust the copy, adjust the image. And then the last thing you can do is these are called promoted posts. And this is something, if you've ever been posting on Facebook, especially for your page, you're doing a blog post or something, and you get that little button that says boost or promote, you can take any post that you've made, any post of that, that 80% content, you can turn it into an ad. Now, this is really best used for short durations. We really don't recommend doing more than 14 days. You can go longer now. They've upped that. But, something like a motivational post that we did for professional therapy services, just about always take the scenic route. And it got 162 reactions, and it was shared 13 times. So if you do like a Motivation Monday post, or, a Throwback Thursday, or just, one of those viral memes that seems to have taken over Facebook on certain days, put it up there, throw a little boost behind it. You can use it to promote anything from news articles, events, or announcements. This is the soft sell. This is the, hey, this is useful information. We think you might like content. And this is an example of a promoted post we did. We actually did a video. One of my coworkers actually went, and they have I think this is for Ultra G, which is a physical therapy machine. So he just pulled out his iPhone, shot a couple of frames of video, used a mixing program, and loaded it up. And it was, again, video quality was okay because of his phone at the time, but he was able to promote a short video. He threw a little call to action in it, but it was really just this is pure information. Did you know that we have a machine that can do this, that offers people a different type of therapy? It was a soft sell. And it can show something in action. All right, so for the next leg of my talk, I'm going to talk about Google a little bit. And again, as we know, Google is the big daddy of search engines. Google ads come in two forms. You can get them in search, which are these little text boxes that you've seen scattered throughout, or you can get display, which is more your traditional, your images, your what you would consider more like a print ad placed online. Google search ads are kind of a unique animal, and I've seen a lot of people do these well, and I've seen a lot of people do them not so well. With a search ad, you're really not writing a lot of marketing text. What you're writing is you're writing a dense concentration of keywords with a call to action, because you only have really 3 lines of the 4 that you control the content of. You have your headline, 25 characters, that's it. The URL you're going to put in there, that's where you want them to go. And Google wants that to be declared ahead, so that there's not like a bait and switch. And then you text line of 35 characters and another one of 35. What we recommend, and this was for a physical therapy practice, so this is what who they're going to go see. Your first line, it's about physical therapy and sports rehab. These are the keywords for this ad. And then the last line is call to action, where you're inviting them to engage. The point of these ads is that you're going to write these very specific to the keywords that you use. If this were a different ad and it were not about physical therapy and sports rehab, maybe it was about post-surgical rehab, you would want to change some of the terms. You would want to change this whole line. You'd want to change even your headline. You can't, the days of just saying, Pekin Hospital, and I'm just using them because they're my local hospital. Pekin Hospital has been in business for 90 years serving patients of such and such. And it's, your traditional marketing language. That's not going to be effective on Google. You want the keywords that you're using here to be tied to what people are searching for, and also to be tied to where they're going. Keywords in the ad you're not going to send a physical therapy and sports rehab ad to a general physical therapy page. You want it to go to a physical therapy sports rehab page. You want that one-to-one relationship, because Google has something they assign as a quality score. Then there you have display ads. And to get in display ads, you've seen these. These are the sidebar ads, the banner ads. This is where image is everything. Out of curiosity, how many people prefer the ad on the left? How many people prefer the ad on the right? Good call. These were run for the same hospital over, and one replaced the other. The reaction to the second ad was nearly 2-to-1. Again, be creative and engaging with your visuals. Again, it's very cost effective, but you can't just rely on, okay, we're going to throw our hospital's logo up there, and people are going to know to click on that. You want to tie in and have a good, strong message to it. So again, how does all this work? People really rely on search more and more these days. And, as we've talked about, and I've kind of hammered in and had a little bit of success with, it's really tied to mobile devices. What we've found in looking at data is that 8 out of 10 online health inquiries now start at a search engine level. So people, as Randy said earlier, they are searching for their conditions. We're carrying search engines with us at all times. So, I'm kind of feeling a little off, and, there's a family history of whatever. I'm going to start searching for symptoms of that. My father had this condition, my grandfather had this. Maybe I'm going to start doing a little self-diagnosis. There's a reason properties like WebMD, and Mayo Clinic are so highly ranked. The other reason I recommend Google is it's still nearly 65% of all monthly search volume. Yes, Microsoft has made some gains with Bing recently, and Yahoo, surprisingly, is still hanging on. But Google they are the Goliath of all of this. And again, we talked about Google really works best when you start with a quality landing page that answers consumers' questions. You work from the landing page first and then go to the ad. You don't say, oh, I want to advertise this, and then I got to find a page to throw it to. So, up next, YouTube. Well, a number of years ago, Google bought YouTube, and YouTube has now become the single largest video provider on the internet. It is actually, if you want to get technical, the second largest search engine in the U.S., and especially with people of the millennials, of that millennial generation. This is replacing TV for them. This is where people this is where people are searching for how-to videos and things of that nature. So, and also nearly 50% of all internet users are on there. With a YouTube ad, you've all seen these. You know, you're going to look up maybe a how-to on how to change. For me, it was how to change a faucet out the other day. But it could be anything. You're looking for a movie trailer, informational, and you get these little ads that pop up. Well, Google ads come in really two flavors for people, you know, for businesses at this level. There's the skippable and the unskippable. This is an example of the skippable kind. You get that little button that pops up at 5 seconds. If someone clicks skip, there's no charge. You still get an impression out of it. You still get a chance to put a little bit of branding in front of an audience, but if they click skip, you're not billed for it. However, you are billed if it goes to 30 seconds or completion. And I've noticed lately a lot of videos on YouTube, what they're doing is they show their content, and right as they're getting close to that 30-second mark, maybe about 25 seconds, they start to put, you know, oh, watch our other videos. That, you know, you can kind of tell the main message is over. They're gaming the system so that people are clicking out before they hit that 30 seconds. They're clicking skip suddenly and they're moving on. That you can do non-skippable. The max length for most advertisers is 15 seconds. These are the ones that come up and you have to watch them. If you've noticed, big national advertisers will do these for significantly longer. They are considerably more expensive, and you do have to go through an application process to go over that 15-second length. Those are billed each time they're shown. So,
Yeah, and most of the non-skippable advertising is brokered. So the times that we've utilized that non-skippable has been through a brokering company, and then the minimums usually we found are like $5,000 a month. So that's a tough one for rural community hospitals, but the skippable certainly is very feasible, as well as you can place videos as promoted videos. In other words, keyword-based, just like Google works. So you can bid on keywords, and then you, instead of feeding them a traditional ad, you feed them the video. So that is possible as well. And just for an example, for Gene's Hospital, IVCH, they had an opportunity to work together with Perry as well, with Brenda there, as a cooperative effort on OB. And I'm not going to play this video for the sake of time, but what we did is we promoted it as an ad. So we placed it on YouTube. Instead of doing television, we knew there was an extremely finite audience of women that would be interested in OB/GYN in that marketplace. And it was primarily targeted to the Princeton market because they were introducing new physician coverage for that hospital to provide OB/GYN services. But they also wanted to make sure that they communicated that deliveries are available at IVCH. So a very nice cooperative effort. And this video ad was viewed 11,622 times, and 500 of those were organic. So most of them were the views by the paid ad. And it definitely increased OE visits and deliveries down the line. So this is exciting stuff because I get excited whenever you can eliminate waste out of advertising. So you can, if you can utilize something like this, like Fred said about that it's the new YouTube. Well, of course for OB it's perfect because if millennials are using YouTube more than television, that's who you're trying to reach for OB. So pretty simple. Okay. So I had mentioned earlier I was going to talk about email, and in relation to direct mail, you know, some of you might have master customer information files or MCIFs, CRM, some of that's set up. Some of you may not. I know one of the biggest challenges is trying to find email addresses through patient databases. How many of you in this room have email addresses, thorough email addresses of patients? One. Foundation, yeah, but not a lot of hands going up. It's the most difficult thing to try to build is email databases unless you're a large system. Systems are figuring it out. They're paying big money for CRM, and they're getting there, and they're sending all these customized messages from direct mail to email to the people that have been interacted with their physicians, with their hospital. You can still use email if you don't have that. What you can do is we can build email blasts, and there are firms that sell email lists, but you don't actually get the list. You build the email, you send it to the company that can blast it out, geo-targeted, demographically targeted, even psychographically targeted, so you can target to their interests within only your service area. Again, very, very targeted. And this is just an example of one for Rochelle Community Hospital for when they introduced a new physician. And it was a blast of about 13,800 people in their service area, selected by their interests and demographics. And it only cost $400 to send that out. Now, we all know that it won't cost $400 to send out 13,846 mailers. Now, is it the same kind of response? Actually, it's pretty interesting. It kind of is. When you send a blast out there like that, you'll usually get about 10% people that'll open it. If I had the report, I could show you that. Probably about 1,300 to 2,000 opens. And then again, then it just comes right back down to about another 10% that have clicked. So that relates into a 1% response, which is the average of direct mail. But this is direct mail without all the expense. And it's mobilized. So you're going to get the e-blast right into your phone so people can react with it. If they're really in the market for a new physician, they can interact immediately. They can click right in and ask for an appointment, where we all know direct mail is a little slower. They got to go get a phone out, or they got to get on the desktop website or whatever and respond. So again, very exciting, very affordable things that we wanted to share today that gives you an idea to really better target for when you're introducing physicians or even marketing physicians that really need just more business. They're just not, fully busy enough to where they need to be. Okay, just to continue on, we've got a few more case studies that we're going to go through in the time we have available. I probably have about 15 minutes, I think. Just to continue on with the Rochelle work that we were just showing. If you want to go ahead and click on the next slide. So Rochelle Community Hospital, Janet knows this story really well. They were introducing two new family practice physicians. Again, have experienced some physician turnover through the years, so dealing with a little bit of the pushback on that. But we're very excited to land these two new physicians, and they introduced them last summer. So both starting just a few weeks apart. And again, the tactics were mixed. So we utilized local newspaper, we used the hospital newsletter, we used a little bit of direct mail mixed in to reach out to the older audiences that were being served by the prior physicians. And then we mixed in radio, online, Facebook, Google, and then those e-blasts that I showed you. So the campaign timing, if you want to go to the next slide, was in early July, and then we ran this campaign for about 6 months, ending about January 2016, and it had a varied campaign schedule. So you can see that by this table, the nice thing about having the online component right in the center, which is the green, is that it gives you that continuous coverage all the time, every single day, almost 24/7 on Facebook and Google. And we run Google ads specifically for these physicians, bidding on terms like primary care, family practice, but even some other words, like I said earlier, like diabetes, so we can hit on some of the disease modeling that's out there to make sure that those physicians are showing up in those searches. So it was a phased-in strategy over about 6 months, and if you go to the results slide, you'll have an idea of kind of how it works. So you see that we had that initial boost when they first started. It ramped up over only a 3-month time period, and then kind of leveled off nicely. So in other words, we gave them a nice big jolt early to kind of give them confidence that this is going to go well. I'll stay here. This is great. I'm getting busy right away, and I'm seeing some new people that I really wanted to help, and that's why I took this job. That's kind of the whole idea, is that quick ramp up and then get them steady and not overwhelm them, of course, with patients. We don't want that either. So we're very pleased with how that went. So if you look at the next slide, you'll kind of see some of the numbers. Average patients per month, Dr. Goyle had 185, Dr. Ritter 203, and some of their highest months are in that 200 to 300 patient range. And this is purely family medicine. Another case study that I'd like to share is a campaign for IVCH, Illinois Valley Community Health Center, or medical group, I should say. And they introduced a physician. His name was Dr. Brandon Musgrave, and he's an ENT specialist. And he provides a lot of innovative services. Some of the services like balloon sinus dilation that really make a difference in people's lives. And for him, we did use some traditional media, newspaper, radio, but we also used Facebook and some of the other digital media. And this next slide will show you some of the examples of some of the messaging. Anywhere from just a simple Facebook ad to introduce him to more symptom-related advertising. So in other words, like allergy relief, or getting your ears, nose, and throats in tip-top shape for kids for back to school. And then that ad to the left actually is a print ad that was promoting sinus problems specifically for that sinus dilation procedure that he offers. And we even reached out to some secondary markets with that because there really were no physicians within a certain mile radius that were offering that. So a very successful campaign. And thank you, Gene, for this quote that you gave me recently, that he states that in 3 years, Dr. Musgrave has been at IVCH, that his patient volumes have increased so much to the point where they had to hire a PA to handle the routine ENT cases so that he could concentrate on patients with more complex situations. So that becomes, if he can do more complex cases, then of course he can do more surgery. Okay, so that's the goal with ENT physicians, of course, is you want to get them busy in surgery, not just for the sake of making money, but also for helping people. So when you look at, this is like the perfect storm. So we introduced him, we got him busy with regular, more routine visits, so busy that he needed a PA. So then the PA relieves the pressure a little bit on the regular visits. So then he could concentrate and start to introduce some more of these innovative procedures, and ends up doing more surgery volume and more income for the health system. So that's really the way it should work in terms of marketing a physician. And it was, again, kind of a perfect storm there. And I just wanted to share that example. And if you have questions about it, Gene's right here.
Dr. Musgrave is now driving a labor team.
Yeah. So now,
He is also, I mean, he's young, and he's responding on Facebook to different
Yes.
comments. So he's very interactive too, which is, fun for us.
yeah,
He's
Yeah.
building engagement, and
Yeah.
he's having conversations.
yeah, and he
And
does
he's
videos.
comfortable with that meeting
Yep.
with some of the other doctors on it.
Yeah, it does make a big difference when you have these younger physicians, but that means we have a great future, don't we? It's really when all these new physicians that are coming on board, and I've got 2 nieces that are in residency right now, one on one coast, one on the other, and it's exciting to see them become full-fledged doctors. Well, they already are doctors, they're residents, but they'll embrace that. When they're asked to get on video or to respond to questions, they love to help, and they're used to all the media. So it's going to be easier, I think, as we go forward to market new physicians and have people connect with them. You just have to manage it well. We all know that there can be, like as Fred talked about earlier, there can be the negative side of it, but as long as you have policies and procedures in place to know how to respond to both the positive and the negative, you'll be fine. But this, it just shows what you can do. So I'm going to conclude real quick here so we can open up for more questions. But again, make it easy for people to find your physicians, especially online. Make it easy with clickable phone numbers, even in the Google ads. So include phone numbers. They can just tap on their phone and call a number. And preferably it's the one number if possible. So scheduling should be easy and accessible. You want a balanced media approach, as we've shown. So both balance between traditional and digital. So you still have the brand effect of traditional, because that really is a big part of that. Same with Google image ads. Still give you the brand effect. In other words, your logo's there of the medical group. There's photos. Doing all text-based ads kind of gets dull, and you don't have that warmth of healthcare marketing in a way. So you want to balance those two out. And you want to take advantage of those new technologies like Facebook Live and some of those exciting things to increase more engagement. Now more than ever, we can talk across the mobile devices and engage and create appointments. And then certainly employ the measurements to track the results and the information referrals, which is the hardest part. Sometimes it's best to set the goals and the measurements the very first day before you start the campaign. Sometimes we forget, and we don't really work so well with the physician group management on making sure they're going to report back to us the number of calls, the number of inquiries, and to be able to track those results. So it's so important to have that in place. So again, you can justify these expenditures to the CEO and the C-suite level. So communicate with your patients, and they'll come to you. I really appreciate your time today, and I'd love to open it up to questions.
You guys have all been fantastically patient
Yes, you
with
have.
us. So fire away.
Silence in the room.
Everything.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Well, if
All right.
nobody has any questions, you have your quizzes. If you want to be entered for a chance to win the Starbucks card, I'm sitting in the back corner over here of the tables. Just set them on the table there, and I'll be splitting my afternoon grading. So,
Just make sure you write your name on it at least. Okay.
and thank you all very much.
Yep.